So what screen am I sharing now? Anything?
I see the it's the PowerPoint, but it's not in the presentation mode.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Corey.
I think that there's that present in Teams button. I don't never tried it, but you try that up on the PowerPoint itself
Mm.
on the right side, right under your face. Picture of your face.
Under your little picture icon. And I just let Butch in, Heather, so he's here.
Okay, good.
Oh, hi, Butch.
Stopping sharing. I'm going to try it again. Share. There. This, and then I'll put it in. How's that?
It's your Pacific Halibut planning slide, but it's not in slideshow mode.
Okay. Let me try it. Third time's a charm. Sorry about this, everybody. Share.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so this is what we've got on our agenda for today. Well, we've completed our introductions, and then I kind of gave a hint of where we are in the process, but we can go through that a little bit more. Corey will then walk us through a review of the 2025 season. We'll talk about the options that we have proposed for 2026 and discuss those. And the goal will be to be wrapped up by 6 o'clock. Also, for those of you that haven't seen the September WDFW report, we did have the recommendation from the North Coast and Puget Sound for status quo season structure. So it narrows down what we had to talk about this afternoon. And if we get done sooner, fine. But this is the time we've got allotted for this. So moving on to where we are in the process. Again, and I think somebody could maybe put the link to our September report in the chat if you haven't seen it. And thanks, Corey. Dave Kronquist asked if we'd send out the PowerPoint, and Corey will do that. We've also been posting them to our webpage to Dave and others. So you can share that with folks who weren't able to attend tonight if they want to catch up on the discussion there. But let's see, oh, my slide did not change. There we go. So in September, we adopted alternatives, and you can see here, this is an excerpt from our September report. And then here is the agenda that the council's got for the November council meeting. And you can see that Halibut is on Sunday, November 16th. This is where we'll have the conversation, and the council will make the decision on the final preferred alternative. Usually what we do after that, it takes some time for the National Marine Fisheries Service to draft regulations, but we do post the dates that are decided at the November council meeting on our webpage, and that really has been a good way for people to understand what we call them preliminary dates are for 2026. But in all the time that I've been working with Halibut, those dates that were adopted in November have never changed from what are implemented the following year. So they're really a good resource for planning and planning your fishing trips in 2026. So a real brief summary of what we're talking about this afternoon is these specific issues for decision on or management of how we manage and approach the halibut fishery in the Columbia River. And this is specific to the nearshore fishery. Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife submitted a report in September that proposed some options to look at that a little bit differently than how we've been doing it. We know this nearshore fishery has implications for both of our sampling programs, and the way the season in the Columbia River has changed over the past few years has made the nearshore fishery a bit more challenging for that. So we'll walk through those. We also want to call attention to the Puget Sound start date and have a discussion about that. This is an issue that the National Marine Fisheries Service brought up in September and asked us to please talk about at this meeting, the meetings that the states are having in preparation for the November council meeting. So we'll get to that. And then the South Coast is the area where we had some proposed changes for consideration and options. And this is where we'll spend quite a bit of time looking at the analysis that we've done since the September meeting and settling on a preferred approach for 2026 to manage the halibut season in the South Coast or the Westport sub-area. This is a helpful graphic, I think, for people to see. I've got my screens all goofed up here, so I'm looking away, but maybe I'll just turn my camera off. What this timeline shows is how the halibut management timeline relates throughout the season, how it relates to the council. So as I mentioned earlier, we meet often in August this year because of the timing of the September council meeting. We met in early September, but this is where we have an initial meeting with our stakeholders to solicit changes to the Area 2A catch sharing plan for the upcoming season. And this really establishes the range of alternatives that we want to look at, that we want to dive deeper into, and that we want the public to understand kind of what we're thinking about. In September, the council meets and they approve those alternatives for public review. So then that gives us the time between the September meeting and the November meeting for us here at WDFW to do our analysis. We then hold another meeting with the public and all of you to review those alternatives and the analysis work that we've done, get your input on the season dates for the next year. And this provides us the basis for recommending our final preferred alternative, which we will follow up this meeting with and write up in a report that we'll submit to the council so that when the council meets in November, the advisory bodies and management teams discuss those and the public can provide comment in addition to the comment we hear tonight on those final preferred alternatives and adopt those. Again, here, this is where I mentioned that we'll post those season dates once they're adopted to our WDFW webpage so folks can plan for the 2026 halibut season. While all that's going on, we've also got the IPHC who has spent this summer doing a stock assessment survey and or doing a set line survey to inform the stock assessment, and they hold their interim meeting, which we just learned will be one day only. It's virtual, I believe, on December 2nd. And this is where we first get our first look at the preliminary harvest limits. The interim meeting also is an opportunity to discuss research proposals and any regulatory changes that are proposed. And then the IPHC has their annual meeting in late January, flagging for you all right now that meeting will be in Bellevue, Washington. So it's a opportunity of traveling to the IPHC meetings, which at times are, last year it was in Vancouver, Canada. It's been in Victoria, BC, or Alaska. So it's local and it's a great opportunity to see how the process works. We can provide more information on that as well. This is where the Halibut Commission reviews the management performance for all areas and sets the harvest limits for all areas. This is also where the IPHC approves changes to the catch sharing plan that the Pacific Council will forward so that they're considered at the commission's annual meeting there. The set line survey is also discussed at the annual meeting, and other discussions on research proposals are held during that meeting as well. And then finally, in March, the National Marine Fisheries Service is the agency that implements the changes to the catch sharing plan in regulation. So then WDFW, we also adopt our rules and state regulation that conform to those federal rules. And this is one reason why we post the season dates, even though they're preliminary in November, because those final regulations aren't out until March. Or, as we'll talk about a little bit later, last year, or this year, excuse me, in 2025, the final federal rule to open the sport halibut fishery came through on April 2nd, and our fishery opened on April 3rd. So it happened very narrowly, but it was done. So let's see. I'm going to hand it over to Corey now to go through the 2025 catch.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Yeah, not take the time. We didn't put too much. Only this slide for the updates to what happened in 2025. At our last meeting, we had data through estimates through August 31st. Now we have everything complete through the end of the season, except if there was any fishing in Marine Area 7 through 10 in September. We won't know about that until probably mid-December, given the way the phone survey happens for that in those areas. But I think in recent years it's been zeros, so I'm not expecting we're not expecting much change to these numbers. Now you can see, just walking through it, each set of rows here is one of our sub areas with the total bottom row quotas there in the second column. In the Columbia Rivers, that includes the 5,000 pounds that ODFW transferred from their central sub area to their Columbia River area to reopen in August. Then you can see the totals by early and late season there for each. And then the last column is how far above or below the sub-area quota we ended up. And in the August, September, we pay less attention to the sub-area quotas and manage to all areas in a common pool type approach. So in this year was different. Puget Sound went almost 17,000 pounds over, and everyone else was under. And I didn't put the percentage on here, but I think, if memory serves, we were up to 95 or 97% of the quota calculated by the end of the year, depending on whether you count that 5,000 pounds extra that Columbia River got. Yeah, so that's all we really have for a recap today. We'll be posting more to our website in a coming weeks. But yeah, Butch, you have a question?
Corey, can you hear me?
Yep.
So great job. I mean, I think this is a total schooling on how to manage a fish very, very The only thing that I would ask just for the future in dealing with California, because they really have short-term memory loss, even though they didn't get anywhere near their quota. If we could put an asterisk at the Columbia River, and that way, 3 years from now, when they're coming after quota, that it really, it's only a positive, maybe just a little under 1,000, or we went over. I can't remember which, but that was transferred in. That wasn't the original amount of our original quota. So, it looks better towards the attainment of our original quota if we had a little star there. So we all remember why that was. I think it is advantageous to us in the future, dealing with California like we have had to do. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, no, couldn't. I did put a note there. You see, but yeah, I couldn't. I think in the end of the year email, I tried to make that difference clear. But yeah, we kind of we can figure out a way to communicate that without making it too confusing.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Corey. Yeah, great. The chart is awesome. It even I can figure it out. So that's pretty simple. Pretty simple to understand.
No, yeah, thanks, Butcher. Yeah, I've been behind on updating the website, so we'll think about that before posting anything. Yeah, Heather, I think that's it for just all we have for the end of 2025 at this point.
Okay. Okay, I'll dive into the next slides. Actually, I'll let you keep rolling with this, Corey.
Okay. Yeah, as Heather mentioned in the overview, ODFW in September have two proposals for the nearshore fishery in the Columbia River area. Heather noted that the main issue was I think last year when the extra days in June were opened, then it caused some complications for their version of the ocean sampling program, which the Oregon Boat Survey, I think it's called. And so that it just made extra calculations that took some substantial amount of time, and for the last couple of years, for zero fish been caught in this fishery. So this is the language from their ODFW report that they submitted to the council in September. And if that first one would solve their calculation estimation problems by having every day open, and then or just given that it hasn't been used and we have more days open, the second option was to just not have that opportunity and just use the pounds in the main fishery. And I think next slide, Heather, I put some
Okay.
more here. Yeah, so you can see the nearshore is only open when the main fishery is not. So in the Columbia River, you have these situations. If we get the extra days added like last year, then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday being the all depth fishery, and then Wednesday and Saturday would be eligible for the nearshore. And then there you can see the opposite. If those extra days are not in place, that's what it looks like. Yeah, and so their main motivation again is no one's fished it since 2022 or 2023, and it's causing a lot of work. And then we talked with Kyle Vandergraaf here as Ocean Sampling Program lead, and Erica, and we have some differences in how our programs work. And we treat weekends and weekdays differently than Oregon does. And if we need some more detail, Kyle can explain, I'm sure. But basically, if opening 7 days then causes us problems in terms of how we deploy samplers on weekdays, and creates later in that when salmon's open, even more issues on stratification. So that's the basic issue. I don't know if people have detailed questions about the sampling. I hope Kyle can step in, but yeah, it's kind of it's becoming maybe a workload sampling burden for again, no one has really fished it recently. And I think and Heather can explain, and some of you know the history will way better, but it was more of an opportunity back when there were fewer days open all depth.
Yeah, thanks. I would like to hear what folks think about the option of just moving that 500 pounds that are reserved for the near shore back into the all depth. And Corey's saying it exactly right. So when we had the near shore fishery, our all depth fishery was only open a couple days a week. And what we've done, and we've talked about this at just about every meeting since 2020, but we've really seen a difference in effort and catch, and we've seen some smaller fish. So we've had longer halibut seasons, and the last few years we've really done a lot of work to build up the opportunity in May and June. So now we have more all depth halibut fishing days. It's I think the idea that folks would be bottom fishing more and there would be incidental halibut catch that they could retain, it is less. And so I think for us, it's an opportunity to at least see what people think about removing the near shore opportunity from the Columbia River. And yeah, I do appreciate all the work that our sampling programs do to give us really good and timely estimates. And this is really for a fishery that we haven't seen any catch. It really does add a lot to what they're doing. And they're of course the first to say, we'll do what you need us to do. But I also want to acknowledge that it's putting a lot of pressure on them, particularly as Corey said, when salmon opens later in June. So yeah, go ahead, Butch. What do you think?
I think we ought to keep our fish checkers in a very happy party mode at all times. I don't care. I whatever is easiest. Of course, we're gonna say that, and guess what? First Wednesday of the year, we're going to go down bottom fishing and catch an 80-pound halibut. But that's the law. I mean, that's just the way it is. You're right. We set it aside. It was set aside when we had very few pounds in the Columbia River. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pounds, maybe. I don't remember, but it was really not very many, and only a couple boats fishing, really. And so if it's outgrown its usefulness and we can better use them in the general season, that's my vote. So that's, it's not a last stand by any means, a line in the sand, but certainly if it helps our fish checking program and makes Oregon happy, it's fine with me. If you and just slip them into the main season and we'll call it good. And if we see a need,
Mm-hmm.
in the future, we can always backtrack. But right now,
Yeah.
I don't hear of any halibut being taken, on those off days, because there's a lot of halibut days. So
Right.
anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you, Butch. Dave?
Yeah, I agree with Butch. We talked about it at the September meeting, and I thought we were all in a pretty much agreement just to get rid of it, kind of like we did at the South Coast.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks, Dave. In the South Coast, I think we do retain an option to have a near shore fishery. even though we haven't been using it. And maybe that's a way to, if we get to, yeah, that's, I think, something to think about too. So, okay, well, that's very helpful. Thank you. The one other thing that's not on here for the Columbia River, that National Marine Fisheries Service, that we've been talking with them about, and this is related to the additional days that we would open in June, is describing that more clearly in the catch sharing plan. We implemented it fine, and it worked out okay, but we think we can make some improvements to how we describe that in the catch sharing plan. We need those folks to help us with that, and as you know, they're not working right now, so we'll do the best that we can with that and make improvements the best we can. If they're not back by the time we need to submit our changes to the cat sharing plan for the November meeting, but that's just another thing that we talked about in September that we will continue to work to improve. All right. Columbia River check. Puget Sound. So as I mentioned at the beginning, oh, sorry, Corey, I didn't mean to just take over. I'll hand it over to you too. But
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
what I kind of hinted at the beginning was this: when we looked at that timeline, and when National Marine Fisheries Service does the rulemaking following the annual meeting, the regulatory implementation date was really close to when our fishery opened, and we were sort of obnoxiously calling NIMS every day saying, is it filed yet? Is it filed yet? Is it filed yet? And right on April 2nd, it was posted, and our season opened on April 3rd. National Marine Fisheries Service asked us if we would at least bring it up with our stakeholders of maybe pushing that opening out a week. So thanks, Corey, for putting the history of when the first Thursday in April is. Next year, the first Thursday in April will be April 2nd. So, shoot, this is my mistake. I don't have one April when the week. So the second Thursday would be April 7th. That'd be in line with what we've done before. That
April 9th.
What, Dave?
April 9th.
Oh, thank you. I didn't do good math. Yeah, thank you. So it would be a little bit later than 2022. So just wanted to put that out there as something we wanted to bring to you. I think that extra 7 days would be really helpful, and it would give us some assurance that we at least have the regulations that allow the fishery to be underway in place by the time that the season opens. So I'll start with you, Dave Cronquist.
Are the feds locked into April 2nd for a regulation date, or is there any reason why they can't work their process a little faster and look at the end of March for their implementation date?
It's all tied to the annual meeting and getting, they have to have the final TAC for all of the areas. That's what's implemented in the regulation as well. So they start it as soon as possible after they have everything they need from the IPHC annual meeting. So I don't know where the timing of the annual meeting this year falls compared to last year, if that might be an extra buffer, but I think they're starting it at the absolute soonest that they can, knowing that the window is very short. And, you know, probably to that too, we know there was an administration change that was slowing things down a bit. Maybe that'll go smoother this year, or next year. I'm not sure, but
Okay. I just, yeah, I mean, if we have a few more days, and maybe we won't go over our share in Puget Sound. I was surprised that we went over as much as we did. And if
Yeah.
we opened on the 9th of April instead of the 2nd, gives us a little bit more leeway.
yeah, I mean, big picture though, the going over, I think it was really pretty cool the way we've been approaching this. So not shutting a sub area down when we see that we've got, you know, room in other sub areas, and starting to take that big picture look at the Washington sport allocation as we transition from June to the August, September season opening. And so in that way, you know, when we had our midsummer check-in call, it seemed like letting it roll, knowing that Puget Sound was actually doing really good. It was good to be able to do that, but you're right. It could create some balance there for other
Okay, yeah,
areas.
I'm okay if we have to follow the Fed guidelines, and it is what it is. We can be more restrictive, we can be more liberal, and if they say the second Thursday in, well, the 9th this year, but maybe we can go back to the
Yeah,
second Thursday in the future would be okay.
yeah, yeah. I agree. If we can keep it, I mean, we have it the first Thursday in April. In most years, that's going to work out okay, I think. But for when we had 2021 of April 1 and 2026 of April 2nd, maybe we need to do something a little bit different.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
And
Thanks,
if I could
Dave.
add one.
Yeah.
One thought is that I can't, did we as well? I know, well, this could just be a this year problem, or maybe a couple, but NIMS has expressed interest in finding a way to kind of framework it in so it just starts, like California asked, by motion asked them to think about April 1st for their fishery. So this could be just a snafu that might be fixed in the future somehow. But yeah, California also asked them to figure it out.
That's right. Thanks for that reminder, Corey. Very good point. So we've got Mike Henderson and then Dave Johnson next.
Hi, Heather. I think you can predict what I'm going to say. I don't see why we delay based on their flow time. They need to speed their process up a little bit. A week is a lot of opportunity, and the fact that Puget Sound went over, I don't think that's an issue because we did manage at a statewide level. So I would push back and say first Thursday in April. Figure out your process, improve your process, reduce your flow time.
I think I appreciate the idea of that. It's not the people that we're working with that have the process issues. It's when it gets to headquarters where things are getting bogged down. And they can't initiate their process until they have all the information. So there is some of that is beyond their ability to change. I say that also noting what Corey just mentioned. We have been having this conversation, and you know, Mike, you have been bringing this up, and so we have repeatedly had the conversation with NIMSA, like, what else can we do? Are there other ways we can get around that? And this is where Corey said this might be an issue for 2026, but something we can resolve for the future. So we'll continue to work on that.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a bad precedent to set. We've been moving the start date to the left, and it's been great for giving people opportunity at time of the year when they can't fish otherwise. And I just hate to see a whole week go away. It just, you know, whenever they get their regulation, whenever they approve it, they approve it. If they're late, I guess they're late. But I would say that our tentative, we should stick with the first Thursday in April. That's my final input.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I mean, we were talking about what do we do if the federal rule isn't in place on April 3rd this year? Do we do an emergency rule that, or we don't have an emergency rule that opens the season? Do we close it? How do we notify people that have made plans to fish on that day that they're now not fishing on that day? That seems also a bit chaotic.
Well, we do a lot of in-season management and emergency closures and all, so I think by and large, people are really tuned into that. I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Dave, and then Lorna, and then looks like Shelly. No.
So I raised
Dick
my hand
Kirkwood.
because Glenn's on the phone.
Oh, okay.
And Glenn's okay with April 9th for the CQ crowd. They're good with that extra week. And
Okay.
also, just to remind you, what we had to do in the salmon world is we had to, because we ran into the same thing a few years ago for the
Mhm.
May 1st opener for the troll fishery. And we had to put it in the year prior that it was
Mhm.
going to open. So hopefully it's just a 1-year thing. But,
Yeah.
like every other fishery, we got to be flexible, especially it takes NOAA a long time and people don't realize it.
Yeah, and it's that salmon example that we're looking at, Dave, and talking to our nymphs halibut counterparts with how to approach that so we don't have that issue in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All good. Thank you.
Lorna.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna kind of echo what Dave shared, and that in frameworking a date, you could be looking at it, but a year in advance. And there might be a way, conversations I had with NIMS folks of structuring it so it go into permanent rule, but maybe you could tie it to what the TAC would be. Because you are looking out a year in advance, you actually will have to set an opening date without knowing what the 2A TAC would be set at. And
That's
so
right. Mhm.
something to consider is
Mhm.
that early April. And it sounds like, so I think it could work, but it sounds like generally folks prefer the early April time as we've backed it up over the last few years. But just flag that would be a different kind of constraint that you're working
Right.
out a year in advance. But maybe that would work. And if it's in permanent rule, then there isn't that, crunch for NIPS to get a rule in place between, well, basically in February and March. And I think I've seen the rule land on our end within a day of our season opening almost every year. I feel like I'm usually, chewing on my knuckles, waiting for the rule to drop. So anyways, just, kind of echoing Dave, and just flagging that because it is a year out, just kind of think about how to structure it in a way that would allow everyone, consideration of whatever TAC might be.
Mhm. Yeah, good point. Dave Kronquist.
Yeah, I don't mean to get down in the weeds, but statutorily, as I mentioned earlier, the state can be more restrictive, but they can't be more liberal. And if you come out with a state season that's going to start on April 2nd, the feds haven't approved their rules yet, there's probably going to be some owly little federal bureaucrat that's going to want to challenge the state and could shut things down, in a bad way.
Yeah.
So, I don't like moving things out. Yeah, I agree we lose some fishing days, but I'd rather have the numbers in place and the federal approval for the season structure. Um, Whether they can look at it, out in the future and say, 2A is, we're going to have 2A start on date certain and put that into their permanent rules. And emergency regulation then could potentially, let them come back and complete the paperwork so we can start fishing earlier. It's something to discuss with them.
Yeah. Yep. That's the concept. So thanks for that. We'll keep our wheels turning on that approach.
Thank you.
Thanks for this discussion. Corey, I'm sorry, I did have a graphic here that I didn't shift the slide to show where the halibut catch is in Puget Sound by statistical week. You want to walk through this?
Yeah, so just yeah, we just put it so showing it that first week, week 14 this year. The dark blue, or the whatever, the blue, darker blue is that's Marine Area 6. The lighter color is Marine Area 7 and 10, and just we don't really know which week that happened. We just pretend it happened the same timing as Marine Area 6, to the point that you can see that Marine Area 6 had one of their bigger weeks that first few days. And then Marine Area 5 in the black, it didn't kick in until later on in the season. So yeah, we could show this to NIPS and say, hey, yeah, people do take advantage of that.
Yeah.
First week.
Okay. So now moving on to the South Coast. I'll hand it back over to you, Corey.
I think Mike has his hand back up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. That previous chart was really interesting.
Yeah.
The week, statistical week 18 and 20, were those light probably because of weather?
I don't know.
I didn't dig into that yet, but that's a good theory.
Yeah, I don't know what else it could be. They're definitely outliers compared to what's around them. Okay, just a curiosity.
Yeah, good question, Mike. Okay. There we go.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Again, like we have, this is the bigger choice we have to make here, on the alternatives that our Westport folks put out there in September. I don't need to read this to folks, but just pause. But oh, sorry, this is the status quo. Just leave that there. And then next slide, please.
There you go.
A big part of what was proposed was this objective that Phil and others put out there of Westport would like to see more of the quota being fished during the traditional months of May and June. So that's kind of the reason why folks are interested in looking at something else. To the next slide. And here's the alternatives. Here are the alternatives. So it's based on our Area 2A FCEY, and using the 1.4 million pounds as the starting point, and either having 3 or 4 days Both would the 4 days would add Friday to status quo. 3 days would swap Tuesday for Friday. So that's the big difference being proposed. Yeah, next slide, Heather.
Okay.
And so just this was kind of we going through how we thought through these options since September. But here's what here's the CEY at 3 different levels of 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5 million pounds, and then what everyone's allocations look like at those levels. So at 1.4, which was in the options, South Coast would be looking at 61,891 pounds. Just for comparison, you can see 2025, that would be a drop of 3,000 or 4,000 pounds compared to what we had this season. So that was the number we're looking at. And then next slide, please, Heather. And this table here just shows how many of each day type would be open. And we got on that new proposal line, we got an email from Phil about a new idea that we'll hear about here, but we haven't mentioned that one yet. But you can see status quo. We got, we have this. You're switching the 7 Tuesdays and a 3-day option for those 7 Fridays. So this is just basically the count of days and how we did a kind of a rough calculation of how these options might change things, which we'll be going through in the next slides here. So next slide, Heather. And just laying out some of the logic here. We would expect our pound, our pounds, what we see each week is basically it depends on how many people go fishing and how many feet on how many fish each person gets on average, and then how big the fish are on average. All 3 of these things vary each week, but it's that we would expect the angler trips to be most affected by these options. This here is the total angler trip. This is from May, June in Westport. You can see the total trips since 2021 was just under 5,400 in 2021, and dipped in 2022 a bit, went back up above 5,200 in 2023 and 2024, and then this season was the lowest of the 5, and 20% lower than that high in 2021.
Wow.
So there was less effort I know, like what we've heard from you all over the season. Yeah, it was less fishing effort this season. And so I got an idea how to bring that back up. If you go to the next slide, Heather. And this shows the same estimates of effort, but by week. Like Heather mentioned, that things really changed after the pandemic or after 2020. Even 2021 and 2022 look different. And in 2023, you see these patterns. 2024 and 2025 are somewhat similar. 2025 looks like the W there, but just this is how effort is spread out between May and June, and week 27 was June 30th this year, so that's the last week of June of 26. And yeah, Mike, please go ahead.
What do you attribute the reduced effort to?
That's probably a question for Westport folks on here. If anyone has theories, I haven't been able to talk to folks too much about what they think was going on.
Well, this Phil, I'm sorry, I can't put my hand up. I'm on the phone here. I'm not.
That's
Is my audio okay?
Yep, you sound pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll back up a little bit. I mean, the South Coast area, in terms of total catches, has really been volatile. I'll use that term over the last 5 years, where we had, something north of 90,000 pounds in 21, held pretty steady right at the 70,000 pound mark the next 3 years, and then dropped down to 51 here this last year. And we had some, weather's always an issue in May and in June too, but I think we had more weathered out days in May this year than we typically do. And then we had our catch per unit of effort was down also, particularly in May, got better in June. And that did influence the number of angler trips that were being taken. We all know the power of the internet and the ability of recreational anglers to communicate with each other about relative catch success in whatever fishery they're pursuing. And halibut's no different. And so we saw our catch per unit of effort falling, and on top of that, we had a considerably smaller average weight this year than really any year I've seen before. Those two things on top of each other, particularly for the month of May, resulted in our angler trips going down. And that's kind of what I think happened. As the CQE started picking up and the average weight came back up, we started seeing more effort, and we certainly saw that as we got into the latter part of August when it reopened. So that's my best attempt to try to explain what happened this year. But it has been that combination of weather, lower CQEs, inconsistent fishing too, I would say, where typically you could go back to a spot time after time and yeah, there's some change, but relatively good success. I guess my observation from this year is that there was a lack of consistency of success also. So all those things compounded on each other, affected our angler trips as well as our catch, particularly the pounds piece.
Sounds good. If we continue to see a trend like that, it doesn't bode well for the industry if people are just, less interested in the future. Hopefully not the case.
Well, yeah, agreed. I think, fishing success plays a big role, obviously, in angler interest, in particularly halibut fishing. I would say, I can't speak to sound, but where guys are having to run a minimum of 30 miles and more like 40 miles one way, cost of fuel and everything in today's world. And if they're not doing well, they don't tend to run right back to do that all over again if they don't have something to show for their efforts. And, I would fully expect the halibut resource to have its ups and downs in this past year, in particular for us. And again, in that May timeframe, the catch per unit effort was down, as well as the smaller fish.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Yeah, I guess that next slide, Heather, I'll try to go through this somewhat quickly so we can discuss. But so the basic issue, we've never seen a Thursday and Friday open together in Westport before. So the data we have won't really answer the question for us, and especially even more so than how much the things have changed since the pandemic. We only have recent years of data to go on. So kind of backing off the formal analysis of we kind of thought through some scenarios just to illustrate, like give us some idea of what might happen. And the three scenarios are that basically a Friday is equivalent to the effort seen on the Thursdays and Sundays. The second scenario would be that some of the effort people go fishing on Thursday and Sundays would shift to Fridays. And then the third scenario is like, what if just having that day open was, it boosted everybody, it boosted effort overall, even so bigger Thursdays, Sundays, and Fridays. So you're not trying to, these aren't going to be great forecasts, but just trying to just giving us our head around what might happen. And just here, shows what Thursdays, Sundays, and Tuesdays have looked like. The points are the average number of angler trips seen on those days, with the error bars there showing how much just one standard deviation to show how variable they've been. Tuesdays, we had a Tuesday open in 2022, but it was no one went fishing on that day according to our estimates. So the last 3 years where we've seen we've had the status quo structure mostly in place. And you can see just the pattern that stuck out to us was that Thursdays and Sundays are pretty similar to one another. If you did statistics on these, they're not different in terms of their variation and average, but Tuesdays are notably lower. And so the next slide, Heather. This one might be hard to read, but that top line there is the average angler trips we've seen on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays the past, since 2023. So 3 seasons. Tuesdays we got 134 angler trips on average, and then Thursdays and Sundays are really similar at 322 and 324. And so basically, a few slides back, you saw just counting the number of days in each alternative. That status quo line just multiplies this average number of trips per day by the number of days to get an estimated number of angler trips. And so it's you would, under status quo in May and June, that estimate is about 5,778 angler trips. And then the next set of rows is that scenario where a Friday is just equivalent to another Thursday or Sunday, the average of those. So basically an extra 323 trips per day. On that 4-day scenario, it would increase the number of angler trips by 2,260 in the 4 days, and then the 3 days, 1,323. That next one, what if we said adding Fridays reduced the number of trips on Sundays and Thursdays by 25%, and then Fridays were also equal to that average of the Sunday and Thursday. If that were to happen, then you're only increasing trips by 605 in the 4-day scenario, and then in the 3 days it would lose 331 trips. We have no reason to think any of this is realistic, but just so showing the thought exercise here. Butch, did you have a question?
I just wondered if you looked at the Columbia Rivers Fridays to kind of compare to get a sense. It seemed like to me, well, one, people are willing to take Fridays off more than Mondays. So it was definitely more busier than a Monday or a Tuesday. And it did seem like it was kind of like a Sunday for us. Maybe it's not wrong, but closer to a weekend, to a Sunday than a middle of the weekday when we fish Fridays. But I just wondered if you took a look at the Columbia River and saw, man, that could be my own imagination. But it just seemed like at least my business, and from what I could see on the charter businesses, I kind of go along with Phil's $6.50 gas here at the dock. Waco didn't promote going out 24 miles for a lot of small boats. It's a pretty expensive trip. So anyway, we've been doing the Friday thing for 1 year or 2 years, but I think that we like it because it's picked up some angler trips and some business. How much is detracted from the other days, I couldn't tell you that.
Yeah, to not get around to doing that much, but it's so that we can get to it after here for sure. But yeah, for some reason I did think about it. We thought about it, but for some reason thought it was different, or we didn't have enough day. But yeah, we could dig back into that for sure. Yeah, we were kind of flummoxed and just came up with this idea a couple days ago. So this lastly, just to complete the idea, what you see here on the first three columns, or the actual fish per angler in May and June, and the average pounds we saw in those years. So in 2021, we had you all had almost 0.9 fish per angler, and an average pound of 6.7. In 2025, that went down to 0.7, and then average pounds went down to 12. I think it was even a little bit under 12. We put more decimal points there. And so then that's, these average weights in CPUE vary. So like that has a really big effect on what we would expect. So the columns in white, just multiply the trips from the last slide to those fish per angler and average pounds. So going to the last row, under status quo, if we saw the same 0.7 fish per angler and the same 12 pounds on average, we would only expect 48,615. But then if you added the Fridays, and Fridays were just like adding one more Thursday or Sunday, we'd be at 67,629 at the end of June, which again, the target was sub-area quota, something like 61. Can't even read my own writing, 61,891. But then in that shift, that if some of the effort shifted from Thursdays and Sundays, you'd expect it to be only at 53,707. And if effort boosted, then you'd be really, really big. So just take away here, it's going to be pretty unpredictable. What would happen? It could be anywhere from under the quota by a lot to over it. Add it before I should have added the context here as we were looking at these, knowing that we have our ocean sampling program giving us the estimates from Sunday, usually on Wednesday morning, if not sometimes Tuesdays. So we have the ability to, in the face of this variability, uncertainty here, just to manage the quota. It would be just a question of how long. Yeah, if we are hoping to come up with a more formal forecast model, and if we did, you would see some really wide prediction intervals on what might happen. But I think that a good point to stop, Heather. See if questions or discussion.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
So it seems like on that average pounds, it seems like I had a conversation with Corey some months ago. That is with them headed and gutted. That's the way the feds look at it. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the same unit that the quota is expressed in. So like basically 25% lower than a real fish. It has its head and guts on.
Okay, thank you.
I have no idea why they
Yeah,
do it that way, but but I imagine someone knows the history. I think first fishery must have landed like that. Sorry, Phil, I forgot you couldn't raise your hand.
oh, that's all right. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, please go. Yeah.
I just had a few thoughts here. Sorry, I have to get over on a Civic Salmon Commission call here in a sec, but at least from the charter boat end of things here in Westport, we number one, very much appreciate all the work that was done by you, Corey, and whomever else might have been involved with the trying to assess what would happen by adding a fourth day, and in particular that fourth day being a Friday. And I guess I would start by saying we strongly support the change in the South Coast objective that is currently out for public review. That objective speaks to crafting the season for the South Coast to try to achieve as much of the catch in the May-June timeframe as reasonable or possible. We in looking at the analysis and just considering what we think might happen by adding that fourth day, thought that adding a fourth day for the entirety of the May-June timeframe was too aggressive. Thought that it would heighten the potential of a closure. Obviously, we know that fishing success, fish size, and angler trips all contribute to the number of fish that are going to be landed. And I mentioned in my previous comments about the volatility of the South Coast, but up until last year, the previous 3 years were about 70,000 pounds, and when we look at what our sub-area quota would be under a 1.5 or a 1.4 FCEY, after the FCEY mortality is deducted, we end up with at 1.5, we're at 62.8. We're at 61.8 with the 1.4 because of the change in that results in that difference to the incidental allowance in the sablefish fishery North Grace Harbor. But when you go down to 1.3, it drops down to 54.4. So, I think we've all been watching what's going on with the halibut resource, and at least from my perspective, there's maybe a higher degree of uncertainty as to whether we're going to be able to maintain that 1.65 TCEY as we have had over the course of the last 6 seasons. So, a long story short, to our recommendation would be that we go with the 4-day week in the month of May, using those Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday combination. I guess I should have reversed that and said Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for the week. And then that we don't take that hiatus that we've been taking the first week or 10 days of June. That we but we go back to a 3-day week. Status quo day is Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Beginning, I think the first Tuesday in June is June 3rd, if I remember right. And then we carry that 3-day regime through the month of May. And so, again, a bit of a hybrid, take an additional step to try to move some of that South Coast catch into that May-June timeframe from what we have seen, but not wanting to go so far that we start running the risk of really disrupting the May and June fishery itself. So that's what we would like to put out there as a recommendation to consider.
Thanks, Phil. Heather, you want to take back over? And thanks, folks. Know Phil emailed us with the idea yesterday. Oh, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in and thank Phil for keeping me involved in the conversations. And we truly support the 4 days a week in May and 3 days a week in June. Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks for thinking about that and having those conversations, Phil and the Westport folks. Does seem like a good way to dip a toe in and see how it goes. And also, yeah, thank you, Corey, for doing the analysis to at least give us an idea of what could happen. I think that's helpful too. Which
Nope, tear it up. No, I am supportive of that. I will be supportive of that, of Phil and Dave's and Jason and Steve's and everyone else's proposal.
okay. Steve.
So is this, I should know this, Bill, is this predicated on the 1.4 million or whatever the FCEY is? I mean, I think in our discussions locally, we were talking about the scenario and it didn't matter what the FCEY was. Am I correct on that, Phil?
Yeah, we did not, we weren't suggesting predicating the schedule on the FCUI less than that to mortality being above or below a point, whether it's 1.3 or 1.4. We, you know, again, between 1.5 and 1.4, well, all of our sub-area quotas don't change very much because of that difference in that table 653 coming down. But there is a drop going down to 1.3 to be sure, and it gets us to a point of about 54,000 pounds in the south coast, which is still about 3,000 pounds above what we did this year. I think we were at 51. So we're still, now if it dropped down to 1 million or something,
Then
well, I guess we're all in trouble, right? So we're all going to have abbreviated seasons, but no, we didn't predicate it on, or didn't have a trigger point. We just thought this would be a good way to test this out. And if we end up catching all the fish in the May-June timeframe, that's okay.
that's okay. Yes. Okay. Thanks. Got
Thanks for that clarification.
And Heather, if you go back to slide 8, you can see the only Westport caught at the end of June only had 36,675 pounds. And the rest came after in August and September.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
Well, I think we have addressed all of the changes for 2026 and in a way that we can write it up for the November council meeting. I hope our NIPS counterparts are back to work soon and yeah, we can coordinate with them, but we'll do everything we can without their input to keep things moving forward. I don't think we have any more for tonight. Look for any other questions. Yeah, Steve.
I got a side note.
Okay.
It's about maybe this isn't proper meeting, but the catch record, when we all go to get our catch records, the annual limit for halibut is 6. And on the catch record, people buy it, myself included, it comes with 4. And it's confusing for the public and me because I got to deal with it on the boat. But is there any way to somehow you guys mention to the licensing department or whatever to make the when somebody buys their catch record card to have it say 6 instead of 4, which is, the annual limit. And so somebody doesn't have to go back and buy it again. Just it's $5 additional, I think, if you want to get the extra 2. I think it would simplify the process in the licensing and the enforcement and us if the catch record had 6 punches for halibut. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because on the boat, it's a deal all the time. I help people fill out their catch records and yeah, I don't know. I want to get that out there.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Back in the day, the reason there's an annual catch limit is because 5-10 years ago, there was a derby fishery and we were trying to spread the catch out, to more citizens. And now the quotas got better, the seasons got longer, and the people that go once or twice with us, fine. But there are people out there that go more than 4 times on private boats, and so they're not criminalized or whatever, make it easier on their lives. And if that catch record was improved to just say what it is, and if they're worried about the $5, it's probably too late, but
I'm gonna let Lorna weigh in here, but I am very surprised that you're having to pay an extra $5 for that second card. I don't.
Yeah, I think you do. I think we do. You do.
It's free,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, it should be.
You pay $5 for the original 4, and then the second 2 fish are free.
I thought it was
Nice.
$5 when my wife did it, but I guess I could be mistaken.
Yeah, it should be free. And
Yeah.
one of the things that does happen is 4 fish is in permanent rule. And so depending on when someone buys their halibut license, if it's before the emergency reg that we issue to open the season with the 6 fish, if they purchase it before that, they're going to get a 4 fish card, and then they can go back and get you have to request the 2 fish. So it isn't just 1, which is, I understand that's inconvenient, but there shouldn't be a charge. It should be those extra 2 shouldn't be a charge. If there is been charged, that's an error.
Okay.
If someone purchases the license after the E-reg has gone in place, maybe they still have to ask for the extra 2, but it should be in the system that the 4 card and the 2 card get printed or made available. So it's tied to when someone gets their license and whether they know to ask for the additional 2-piece punch card.
So next season, whatever, when I go get my license, I need to say I want the 6 annual, not the 4 annual.
You want the 4, and then it's a separate 2
And
to get at the, yeah. You get, I haven't done it actually, so unfortunately I'm flying a bit blind here, but
yeah,
it's linked to the permanent rule. And if we change the permanent rule, then I believe that would address this issue. So that's just a separate conversation as to what the annual limit would be.
Right, but we have opened the season in 2024 and in 2025, starting with the 6 fish.
Right,
annually.
under emergency rule. It just
Right.
if they
Yes.
it's just when people buy the license, license, they're not gonna kick out a 6 fish, even if it's in 2 parts, until the rule is actually in place.
Okay.
That's how I understood it from licensing, so.
Okay.
It is a bit clunky, because you have to know to get the 2 pieces.
All
Heather,
right,
this is Glenn. Can you?
go ahead.
Heather, this is Glenn. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Glenn.
So the deal, since I sell the licenses, it does not come with. You have to ask for that secondary punch card, and you can't do it at the same transaction. You actually have to sell it to the customer for the 4, which is the $5. Then you have to go back and relook that customer up again in order for the field to refresh to get that extra 2 fish. As of right now, you cannot get 6 fish punch card. And that's what I think what he was asking to change. Can we get a hold of the license department, get rid of that extra 2 fish, and have the original ticket or punch card come with 6 fish on it?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think then that's what Lorna's saying. We need to change the permanent rule so that it's 6 fish. And I mean, you can, the conversations we've had about going from 4 to 6 in permanent rule have been somewhat divided. Maybe now that we've done it for 2 years back to back at 6 fish from the beginning of the season, that's maybe not an issue, and folks are fine with taking that step. When we first talked about it, there were pros and cons to that. So
Yeah. And I was on the con side, not
Yeah.
wanting, but personally, but they'll probably regret I said this, but if the TAC goes way back down to 1 million or less, then the 4 is not a bad deal. So, okay, I just wanted to get a conversation.
Yeah, it's a good one. And
I-
I think maybe what's been harder for us is we've kind of been watching that conversation at the IPHC annual meeting around, are we going to be able to hold on to that 1.65? And if there's certainty with that, then maybe 6 fish isn't such a bad idea, and we can live with
Right.
it. But the concern is, if it drops down, what do we do? And that's been the bonus of having the flexibility of doing it by E-reg, I guess.
Okay.
What do you think, Lorna?
Thanks for explaining.
I think I think you could do that and bump it down. I was following you right. I was also going to suggest, I think we've got Mark on the call, that maybe one thing to maybe clarify for the public in the news release is to make sure they know to request. I think some anglers may not know to even ask for that additional 2 if it's possible. But yeah, I think you could go the other direction.
Yeah.
With the permanent rule.
Thanks, Lorna.
Yeah, Lorna, that's something we can go ahead and do for folks, just to clear the air on that side. So,
Okay.
Yeah, it's an education deal. But myself included. Okay, thanks you guys very much.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear these challenges.
Yeah, it is. And so we've got Dave and then Butch also waiting to weigh in.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, I went back and re-listened to our 2024 meeting, and it was a unanimous vote to go to 6, and same with last year. So I would be a proponent of putting it in the rule, because the catch record cards are showing that only 2% or so are catching that many. And we're still not getting fully to our quota with the 6 fish limit, but it sure helped from the 4. So I would be a proponent of just putting it in the permanent rule. And then if we really have a disastrous year, we can always do an emergency rule the other way. but it would be less confusing if we had the 6 fish on one card and then just do an emergency rule the other way if we have to.
Okay. Butch?
Yeah, I'll probably once again not make Dave Kroonquist's Christmas card list, but this whole halibut thing, licensing is just an absolute mess, and that's what you get when you compromise. We have customers. We've been working with Captain Chadwick and Vernie for the last year or so. I mean, we get these, and I know they're honest people. They're not. They go in to get the whole shebang. They come fishing, and there isn't a halibut license to be found. And they say they want everything. They're going to do every fisheries, and many times we're either punching crap on our punching their fish on our punch card, or having my wife run down a 1-day stamp to put on theirs. It just needs to be more better. I think Vernie is coming up with a paper tag that we can have in our office, a paper punch card for halibut or whatever. But it's been a mess from almost the get go, and honest people are thinking they're having a license and all legal, and they show up and guess what? It's been a mess for quite a while. So anyway, my 2 cents. Sorry, Dave, you screwed this one up, and it just it needs to get better. So anyway, love you all. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Ditto what Butch said.
Dave Cronquist?
Yeah, early on, and we didn't have the quota for fish. Seemed like a reasonable number of fish for a family to be able to take halibut for the year and have something in the freezer. We've had the increased quota. I'm okay with it going to 6 and changing the rule. You can always shut a season down if we're approaching the numbers. So maybe I'll send you a Christmas card anyway, Butch, but I can live with 6 fish on the catch record card.
Okay, well, thanks for bringing this up. I'll say, I don't know, maybe you heard more about this, but I hadn't really heard about these problems until tonight. So yeah,
That's
thanks for
because,
being.
Heather, we've been trying to work through Dan and the licensing department to get it fixed. So
Okay,
you have enough on your plate. That's kind of why I mean, that's kind of why I've been going that route for the
okay.
last few years. So
Well, thanks for that. If there's anything I can do, let me know. Pete Bernie's retiring too. Lamont, do you have a question?
I do. A question. Is there any reason why the punch card can't have space for 6, but that not automatically mean they're allowed to catch 6? And then that'll solve both problems because the regulations will state how many you can keep year by year.
I mean, it seems like a good idea to me. Do people get, I'm so sorry to answer your question with a question, but do people get confused if there's space for 6, but the rule only says 4, and they're like, but it says there's 6 spaces. Yeah, I don't know. So sorry for throwing out a question to that.
No, that really would be my question too to everyone else. I think it should be, it's a good compromise both ways. So if it is 6, you have it and you're legal. But we also expect everybody to adhere to the written rules. So I don't think
Yeah,
just because there's 6 slots, they should assume they can keep 6.
yeah, yeah. good thinking on the compromise, and maybe we can talk to Peter Verney, and I'll be sure and touch base with Captain too. Butch?
It didn't work very well with sturgeon. They had
Mhm.
5 sturgeon and then it went down to 2, but they left it at 5 and they soon had to change it. I don't know if it was
Okay.
court cases or what, but they had to change it down to 2.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's selective confusion.
Just fun fact for you.
Also, we're going to need to pay attention. I think this e-tagging is going to go live here pretty soon. So,
Right.
Butch's favorite topic. So, something more to add to it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it'll all be electronic and it'll all function perfectly. Always.
Dan, how am I going to get my second punch card now? My duplicate license.
You'll find a way.
Go ahead, Mike.
You can print as many deer tags as you want in Oregon, so just go ahead. We'll just take their system because they print as many deer tags as they want on the computer.
So e-tagging, is that coming down? Is that a reality? And when's it going to happen?
Yeah, I'm here in December. They're trying to get it going.
Or just halibut or any
No,
saltwater fish?
No, everything.
And that'd be awesome.
Yep.
The folks I talked to that use it in other areas really like it and are looking forward to moving to that approach. So
I use it in Canada and love it.
Good deal. Well, that'll solve all of our problems. How's that?
Heather,
Yeah.
the last comment I would say about the 1-day stamp for the charters and the guides.
Yeah.
I would not want to jeopardize that over anything else. That is really very, very appreciated and beneficial for our industries. So overarching, that is a good thing. No matter what our squabble is over the annual limits, the 1-day stamp is very beneficial for our businesses. So just get that out there also.
Okay.
Great meeting.
That's important. Thank you, Steve.
Very important.
Anybody else?
Lamont asked a question in the chat, Heather. I don't know the answer. If we have anything written on the electronic.
Oh, good. Yeah, that is a good question. I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm a bit, other than the big picture, I'm not involved in the details. I can do a quick look on our website.
I'm not aware of any
place
the public can read up on it.
Okay. Mark, can you help us?
Yeah, so we're just kind of still in the internally discussion mode about that. Like Captain Chadwick had said, I think more will be coming out here in the next month or two by early December. So, but yeah, it's just in talks right now. Nothing hard on paper yet or electronically. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. So stand by for more info, Lamont.
Congrats to Lorna on her retirement.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. I think that was you, Mike.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Well, thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. And like I said at the beginning, we post the recording to the webpage, and then I think we'll also share our WDFW report that comes out. Always appreciate your input and problem solving and all of that that you do with us so constructively. So thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas, Dave.